I've always heard just the roof and like when it's cold and windy, like if they could close the roof, the ball travels better, carries better. It's more fair. Like the colder weather, the marine layer, some people call it, in April and May when it's cool out, it's not the home runs that are suppressed as much. I mean, they are, but it's that ball of the gap that should travel farther and get down that hangs up enough for somebody to run underneath and catch. You can just see it like where you'll see a ball that you think is hit real hard, it dies on the warning track or it dies, or it's run down. And there's more opportunities to catch it. I mean, think about all the balls that we've seen Julio run down in the gap from opposing hitters, and everybody say, well, other teams have to play in it too. And it's true, but other teams come in for 3 days and get a leave and then feel good about themselves. You're on a 12-game homestand and it's crappy and cold and whatever, and you feel like you've been robbed of 3 or 4 hits, it gets in your head. Ask Justin Smoke, ask Jesse Winker and his 3-cent head. I mean, to me, it does get in your head. And like the win factor and when the roof is closed, it does. Like the players don't, and like it's just not comfortable to play either.
Yeah.
It's like you're all bundled up. It's just cool. It's miserable. Some people mention like the time. I don't give a shit what you think. Those games at 6:40 are nice. 7-10 games, and even with the pitch clock, it's too late. I like getting done earlier. It makes everybody happy.
That doesn't factor into their play, though. Stop it.
I don't know. Somebody
that factors into your life.
Well, that's true too. I mean, but
what JP Crawford said, I just can't play at 7:10 anymore. I think part of our problems are at 7:10 starts. Can we start the games at 6:40, please?
Yeah. Well, it's like I don't mind 7:10, whatever. With the pitch clock, it's evened up everything. Yeah. I can't even imagine. It's difficult for me to recall what my life's like. But no, to me, the article offered a lot of kind of verification of what like we've kind of seen or kind of whispered. And it does no help for like the reputation of the park.
Right.
The batter's eye, I've heard complaints about, especially during day games, just kind of the glare. I don't know what they're going to do. The way the field is set up, it's hard to like just move it. Although I'm sure they could. If you could, if you told the Mariners, hey, look, we can if we move this batter's eye in and even it out, but we can put in a wine bar out there where we can charge that. Boom, it's done. Let's make some money.
Yeah. Well, you know what I found interesting though because you and I have talked a lot about the roof. Yeah. About should they close, and JP Crawford has been a big advocate of closing the roof. Close the roof, especially early in the season. Now, I would imagine the pitchers are like, don't close the roof. We like it open. But what I think the biggest takeaway from that article was that research they did for the 6 years that closing the roof has no factor at all. Zero.
But again, like it does it or doesn't it? Because like when the roof is open. I mean, like it's no rain, humidity, whatever. It like, does it even out or isn't it? Because like some of the days when it's open versus the days it's closed, like I don't know. Because like, think about this. Think about the August and June days when it's open, July days when it's open. Yeah, man, it's hot. The ball's going to carry. Like when it's closed, was it open? Like what is it? Open in April versus closed in April. What are the numbers? Maybe that's
and I would say this to even if the numbers show that closing the roof doesn't factor in, I still would close it in the beginning of the season for what you just touched on earlier, the psychological factor of it. Well, because I think of a player like JP and these guys come out and they see it closed, I think it eases their mind. And you played in college. I don't need to tell you this about baseball. There's no other sport that is so mentally demanding than this sport. And if you can just be like, oh, I've already got a win today. I'm already ahead in the count because the roof is closed. I just think it relaxes them. Whether it truly helps them or not, I just think that they go into that night's game going, all right, roof's closed. Perfect.
I I played in Mayville, North Dakota, which is like 3 miles from the Arctic fucking Circle. Can I curse on here?
Of course. Well, yeah, you've been here for a while, and you do, so you're good.
The Arctic freaking Circle. I mean, like, and they snowblowed the field, and we started games at 35 and 37 degrees. So, like, I understand cold, but yeah, it's kind of like the whole line from Bull Durham. If you think you're pitching well because you're getting laid, or you're not getting laid, or because you wear women's underwear, then you are. And if you think you hit better because the roof is closed, or you feel like you see it better, then you should. Let's be real honest, because you take your son to these games because your son is a lunatic and he's got the long hair.
It's cold. Yeah. It's freezing as hell.
It's fucking miserable.
Yeah, it's especially in the beginning of the year.
I credit Mariners fans for going. I look around, we'll be in the press box and the wind's blowing and the roof's open. And I sit there and say, if I was a fan, the most dire, there is no way I would spend the money to tickets, park, food, and then be cold and be uncomfortable. Like, I don't know that it makes it that much better closing the roof, but it's a hell of a lot more comfortable, especially when the wind's blowing. And my favorite aspect of all this is like Chuck Armstrong, who was the big proponent. And I think, honestly, I don't think he liked opening and closing the roof very much because it cost money, a lot of money.
Do you know? Let me stop you. Do you know how much it cost them to close it?
No, I haven't heard. You
got to find that out.
Yeah. But like for a while, somebody said it was like $12,000 or something every time they had to open or close it.
I could see them being like, no, we can't close it today.
But like he always wanted to say is like, if it's not raining, we want to have baseball under the open skies because that's how it's meant to be played. This man sat in a goddamn suite. Howard Lincoln sat in a suite.
Yeah. With heaters on their feet.
Yeah, I say what you want. I mean, at least Stanton's out there in the Diamond Club all the time, sitting outside. He's got I love it because he rocks the parka with the jersey, the oversized jersey.
It's a good. I like
it.
Like,
I just think it's uncomfortable to me. Right. If it's uncomfortable for the fans, how the hell is it going to be comfortable for the players?
I totally get it. What I would do is I'd close it, and then I would find like I have on my back deck, I would just put a series of just heaters everywhere. I'm serious. Yeah, just everywhere around that stadium and just shoot heat down. It is miserable in the beginning of the season. It just is, and I agree that it's miserable there for the players. But my takeaway from it, again, with the wind and it got that whole article got real scientific. The wind, the sun. There's factors to every ballpark. It's not like it's warm in Minnesota in the beginning of the year, or Minneapolis, or Boston, or New York, or Cleveland, or Detroit. There are a lot of places that aren't the Dodgers and the Angels and the Padres and the teams in Florida. The Giants. My God, even in the summer, I went to a game in the summer at the Giants. It was like 40 degrees. It was miserable.
Like Haniger told me he'd much rather hit at T-Mobile Park than in San Francisco.
So there's always these issues. My takeaway, and I had a great conversation with your coworker Adam Jude about this yesterday as we both were walking our dogs and yelling at each other. I just think it came across as a lot of excuse making, because at the end of the day, good players can hit there, and it's been proven that good players can hit there. Now, and Adam, I think, brought up a good point, because I reference a lot of 2001 and their stats. It's a different game, and I got to acknowledge it's a different game now than it was in 2001. But even if I cite those stats of how John Olerud hit there, and Edgar hit there, and Boone hit there, and McLemore and Stan Javier, and again, now, am I cherry picking great players? Yeah. Olerud's not going to get in the Hall of Fame, but he's a very good player. Brett Boone's not going to get in the Hall of Fame, but he's a very good player. Never had an issue hitting there. 2015, Dipoto's first year. I think that sometimes people think Cano was a bad signing here. He was not.
No, he's really good.
Cano crushed it here and crushed it at home. Never had a problem hitting it at that ballpark, ever. And I just think there's more examples. Ty France's first couple of years was fine here.
Yeah.
I think if you get good players who know how to hit, they'll hit. That's it. I just think that he hasn't acquired people that are good at hitting.
Oh, well, Do I think there is an effect? Yeah, I think it affects certain players more than others. Did it affect Nelson Cruz? No.
Right.
And Cano is not that type of hitter. And, we've kind of said that the pull side to right field is a little more friendly. You know, it's not hitting in Yankee Stadium. It's not a joke like that. So I think you can make complaints about the stadium. To me, like the performance aspect of the stadium isn't like the overall team, the player performance. I don't look at it that way. I look at the reputation and whether or not that hinders them all into an already difficult mix of trying to get players to come here, because you are in upper Alaska, or Southwest Alaska, and you're far from Miami and Texas and some of the places where like a lot of players live, states that have no income tax, though Washington doesn't either.
I feel like we're going to get one day.
Yeah, if we're knocking on the door. I mean, I sometimes you wonder if that's better than what you pay for license plates. But
fair.
But like, so it's already not a great draw to get guys to come to Seattle. The distance, the time difference, the flights, all the travel, all that stuff. Then you have the reputation of the organization, never won anything, they're not spending, and then you have this park that just kills numbers. And like, whether or not you're getting paid, you still want to put up numbers and produce. I mean, look at Adrian Beltre. Like, he was one of the biggest. Like, he was never on the record complaining about the park, but he hated hitting here. He hated hitting in Seattle, and wasn't, consequently a few years later after that, and seeing how it kind of affected the mindset, they moved the fences in and they made some adjustments. And for a while it evened out. The climate is changing around Seattle and the weather is changing. Like, it does feel like some years you get more of the warmer summer, it gets warmer earlier, and other years it isn't, and it's cold. I mean, that's going to affect it. But to me, like, that's the bigger issue is, does it affect them getting players in here? Like, how much of that is a hindrance when you already don't have very much money to spend anyways? So, like, what we call balling on a budget. Like, if you're limited in the budget the way that ownership is limited, Jerry Dipoto, and then you already have a place and kind of a reputation with the organization, with the park, and with the travel, that players don't want to go here, then you got to overspend to get them to come here. And so then that limits you even more. It's San Diego is not a great hitting spot early in the year. It's got what do they call it, the May gray and the June gloom. I mean, like, it isn't a great hitting spot at times. God, though, it's a beautiful place in late June, or even when the June gloom comes off in the afternoons. But like, they don't have that. And so I think that's my bigger issue is how does it affect them in player acquisition? Is it that much of a hindrance to what they already have hindrances? Like, you're not going to be able to move the team. You don't have a World Series. That doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon. You're already working with a limited budget. Does the park and the reputation of being unfair to hitters affect them that much? And how does it change their roster lineup or their roster construction stuff? Because, like, that's another thing is, like, you remember Service talking about it, and we need to hit more homers and stuff, and for guys like Eugenio Suarez who hit the ball far enough, that's not an issue. But it's the guy that hits 10 homers a year that might hit 18 homers somewhere else. That's what changes it. The kind of the replacement level player who doesn't have the elite bat speed or the elite exit velocity to drive the ball out of the park, but might benefit other places. How does that affect them? I mean, I just think that those are the issues. And you're right in the sense, though, I can't look at really any player that they brought in. I mean, like, and we've already established this. How many players have they brought in, like, at their apex or their peak, where you said, okay, this park has hindered them or they didn't hit? I mean, Mitch Garver was the highest, the most they've ever spent on a free agent position player. And before that, it was Nori Aoki. So, like, you're trading for some hitters and they haven't produced. But like, Winker didn't produce in Seattle, but he also played in one of the most hitter-friendly ballparks in all of baseball too. And you would think that, like, somebody in the Mariners would say, well, this might not translate well.
Yeah, I mean, it's